So I was hoping you could address a couple of things. So I really enjoyed your book, Bullies, although a lot of the arguments and points made in there were from, I believe, 2012, and in particular the Romney-Obama election.
Yes.
I was wondering if you could address how those trends have evolved over time, and in particular, if you feel the recent presidential election was almost a backlash against some of those trends. And then additionally, I was hoping you could talk about maybe what we as students can help do to prevent a culture of bullying, and in particular to fight back against the one-sided conversations that a lot of times the administration.
So brief answer. I think that with regard to the messages in Bullies, I think they are certainly apropos to current politics, and I think there was a backlash against the feeling. Like, people say that it was a bunch of Trump voters in the Midwest who decided that they were angry at the current system just because the current system was because they were poor and people hadn't been fulfilled or whatever. I don't think that's really what happened. I think there were a bunch of people who lived in these blue-collar states in the Rust Belt, and they said, I'm sick of being called a racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe. At least Trump doesn't think that I'm mean and nasty and a deplorable, and therefore I'm voting for Trump. And there was an attempt by the Democrats to polarize Americans along racial, ethnic, sexual orientation lines, and they objected to it. And so it was more of a cultural fight, I think, than it was an economic fight. In fact, unemployment correlated really highly in those swing states with voting for Hillary Clinton, not with voting for Trump. As far as your second question, I'm trying to remember what it was. Reiterate for a second.
So I was mostly just wondering, like, what
what you can do as students to fight back.
Can do.
So, I mean, I think that the first thing that you can do as students is talk to people on an individual level. This doesn't mean you have to engage in every conversation. You should determine whether a conversation is useful or not, whether someone wants to have an honest conversation or not, or whether they're just there to beat you up. And if they are, then maybe it's good for practice. Maybe it's good for you to hear the other side so you can do a back and forth. But there's no substitute for individual conversation, because that's how people are actually convinced. And I think you see by the number of people who are liberals in the audience. And notice, I've used left all night. I don't use liberals except for people who actually believe there ought to be an open discourse. So thank you to all the liberals in the audience who showed up tonight. A round of applause for them, because I appreciate